Welcome back to Karen's Bookshelf, and now it's time for an author interview, and I'm delighted to welcome a special guest and author, Jasper Fforde. Jasper, you need absolutely no introduction, I have to say, and yeah, welcome to Dubai. I hope you're having a good time so far.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, great. Well, thanks for giving up some of your time to come and talk to us. I mean, you have such a distinctive authorial voice in your books. Your first book, The Eyre Affair, was an instant bestseller, New York Times bestseller. What is it about your books, do you think, that readers are so drawn to?
Oh, gosh, it's a very good question. I don't know. I mean, when I was writing, and this is something I always say to other authors, never write to market, right? I had no intention of selling my books. I was writing what amused me, what I found funny about the world, what interests me about the world, and all the little tiny little minutiae of sort of human interactions, you know, what we do, the things we get up to. And I was just having fun on the page, and I think maybe that has something to do with it.
Yeah, and this is your latest book,
Yes,
Early Riser,
Yeah,
and this is about sleep hibernation. And basically you've created this world where the whole of humanity goes into hibernation for 4 months. I've got two questions for you. Where did you get the idea, and how long did it actually take you to sort of map out this book? Because the level of detail is just mind-blowing.
Well, the idea, when I start a book, any of my books begins with essentially what I call a narrative dare, right? I set myself a dare, and then I kind of work my way through it, unpackage it, see how it works, see how it functions, and then, you know, write the story based on that. So the dare for this was write a thriller set in a world in which humans have always hibernated, right? That was a narrative dare. And in that sentence, the important word is always. And that's what's really vital to this book, is the fact that humans have always hibernated, so we're subtly different culturally, politically, economically, all manner of things. And it's really by then exploring all that, the complexity, the rich complexity of that world, and then the sort of the plot and the characters and the drama then actually comes out of this sort of slightly bizarre world. So I often write books backwards, world first, and then see the new dramatic possibilities and how it's going to work out. So, I mean, that was basically the idea of it. And the complexity, I suppose, is really because when you're writing for a sort of science fiction audience or a fantasy audience, these are people with a very, very vibrant imagination. And if I create a world in which humans have always hibernated, they will instantly be clicking ahead, and they will be saying, "Ah, yes, but what about so-and-so?" So I'm kind of trying to double guess what they're trying to, all those questions they ask, and then put them in there. And it makes, I think, for a more satisfying read.
Absolutely fascinating. And in terms of length, I mean, how much time does it take you to create something like this?
Well, this one, Early Riser, this one, for some reason, this took me, I think, nearly 3 years. And usually I can write a book in a year, so something went a bit wrong there. And something went horribly wrong. I call it my creative hiatus, which is I don't know, sort of rather sort of flashy way of saying sort of writer's block, really.
Yeah.
But usually I can write them in about a sort of year and a half, 18 months, but very intensely. I have to keep all the balls in the air at the same time.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've worked very intensely.
How interesting. And that brings me quite nicely on to my next question, because you've got 14 books published.
Yes.
How have you managed to keep the creativity going for so long? Do you have a particular routine, or are there certain things that you do to keep that longevity?
I think it's because I never really run out of ideas. I'm always, when I was a child, I was always making these bizarre observations, and sort of people said, you know, don't be so silly, Jasper, you know, and I'd say, what if this happened, or what if we moved this? And I think I always think like that, so my mind is always clicking over. So when I'm writing a book, I'm just kind of really being myself. And when I have a narrative dare like hibernation, I go, great, you know, this is really an idea with legs. I can really work with this, and that's what I like about writing, and it's just very exciting and great fun, and that's sort of what drives it, really.
It's quite an interesting story before you were even published, because it's 11 years before you were trying to get published, and 76 rejection letters. Correct me if I'm wrong. Right. What advice do you have for budding authors?
Well, I mean, you know, going back to what I was saying about don't write to market, write what you want to write. if you're a musician or an artist or a sculptor or a dancer or a poet, you're exporting your worldview. And that's what's fun, that's what's engaging, that's what's interesting. And I think if you're writing what I call like Me Too books, like just like books which are about, you know, what's selling, right, then you'll lose that unique sort of view. So essentially, be yourself, right, and think long term. You know, don't think the first book is going to be a success, because it might not be. Think about 10 years and 6 novels before you get published.
Fantastic advice. Jasper, thank you so much for joining me on the show. It's an absolute honour to have interviewed you, and best of luck with this book. Not that you need it, I'm sure. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you on Karen's bookshelf next week.